what did you see as far as the obviously ran the ball really well against Dallas? What did you see in the execution from the offensive line this week than maybe the previous couple weeks?
Well, I thought we were just cleaner. Overall, as an offense, we were cleaner. Not perfect by any means, but we were cleaner. And I thought we raised the floor on our perimeter blocking. I thought that made a big difference. You know, in terms of guys on the perimeter, didn't matter what it was. It didn't matter if it was QB driven or if it was Derek, you know, breaking through the line of scrimmage and Nelson downfield. I just thought we took a real step in terms of, you know, where our guys were and where they got to this past week.
Todd, the buy-in from those guys, from the receivers and tight ends to block the way that they do, especially in a game where they're not getting, you know, they're going to throw the ball 15 times. And how, you must take a lot of pride in that, knowing that everyone's going to buy in and say, that's fine, today's maybe I'm not going to catch a bunch of balls, but I'm still going to do what I need to do.
No, that's, been coaching skill guys my whole life. That's a hard deal. That's a hard sell when, you know, a lot of their pride and what they get paid to do is showcase their skill set. I don't care what position you play. You want to touch the football. But it said a lot about those guys that in that moment, however long the game is for 3 hours, that it's about team. It's about what I can do right now to help the Ravens win. And that's been a staple of this organization for years. Then we can figure out afterwards, hey, how can we get other guys involved? But at that moment, that's what I control as an individual player. What's called to execute at the highest level. And that, again, that says a lot about those guys.
Todd, do you feel that this offense challenges Bill's defense in ways that the 3 previous teams that they competed against weren't? The other teams tend to throw the ball outside the numbers more. They have higher depth per target and air yards. This is an offense that is different in those regards.
Well, again, our sample size is 3 games, and their sample size is 1 game each. So I'm not saying that who we are now and who they are then. Each game presents different challenges of how we're going to attack them. There's certain aspects of Arizona that you take from. There's certain aspects of Miami, you know, that you like, and there's certain things that, you know, what went on last week and then last year. So there's a number of things we'll take from that, but. We certainly have to continue to build on what we've done so far and continue to play clean football. That's what's when you turn on the tape, you want it to look like you want it to look like. And that's an easy statement, but when you're going against the best in the world, a little harder than it seems. But for our guys, we've had a great week of practice last week, and we've already started off this week with 2 great days, so I look forward to playing Sunday night.
Todd, along those lines of opponents and such, why did Mark Andrews play, you know, fewer snaps last week?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't even know he did. I mean, I you know, game plan wise, some of that comes into play. We were a little bit more U personnel, I guess 22 personnel. And when Charlie's in and Pat's in, that's only one of the other tight ends. So that's going to shrink that. In the other games, we're in a lot of 2-minute. We're in a lot of no huddle. There's a lot more throws, which is going to, you know, and we didn't have as many snaps. I mean, all that's part of it. You know, we think a lot of Mark. We anticipate Mark having opportunities. It just didn't, like all of our guys. You know, they didn't get the opportunities they were hoping for, other than maybe Charlie.
And John has talked about penalties and obviously the need to cut them out. Chris, as a coach, for example, you guys have had 7 or 8 offensive holding calls. Some of those are probably going to be questionable. But as a coach, what do you do to try to eliminate those things, whether they're questionable or not? How do you try to cut those things out?
Well, first thing you do is, obviously they're not intentional, but you show them the tape, show them what they're calling, where their hands, where their body placement is, because that's a part of it. Did we get out of position, right? Was it a call that put them out of position? You know, all those things are part of it, you know. And then just making sure that those things, like anything that we do technique-wise or schematically, is you try to get it corrected. As you show them the film, what is it? Body position, hand placement, what is it schematically, and how can we get it fixed? Because playing clean football, eliminating the penalties, will allow us to not waste yards, if that makes sense. We've got a lot of yards. Okay, now how do we How do we turn that into functional, directed yards and turn them into points? Because that's really what it's about. It's about scoring points.
Lamar talked after the game Sunday, and even when we spoke to him yesterday, about just continuing to score points, even when you guys have the lead that you had on Sunday. When you're calling the game, especially this past Sunday, late in that game, do you feel like you're calling it to kind of just keep the clock going, or do you feel like you were aggressive with the play calls in the back end of the game?
The only one that I would say wasn't nearly as aggressive as I wanted would have been the third down call before the field goal attempt. That one there was really okay if we get it. If not, it gets us to a 4-score game. Really, is what we were thinking. Sure, there's out of 60 calls, there's a number of calls I always wish, like, okay, would have done that different. Would have done that different. That's just human. That's never going to change. It's not the first or the last time. The next drive that we got it, we just didn't convert on third down. The next drive that we got it, on third down, we did throw it. And then, to me, the other thing is trusting the players. Because like I told the guys, like the last play of the game that sealed it, to me, that's not conservative in that call. Because you're going to trust your players for ball handling and security. Because you're not just handing the ball off, you're reading it, you're putting it in, and you got to trust the players because you can't put the ball on the ground, right? So to me, those are plays that do take that. And sure, I don't disagree with Lamar. We want to keep the pedal down because you don't want to leave even the door open. So I'm not disagreeing there. And there are certain calls I wish we could have been a little bit more aggressive.
How much, as you touched upon it, Lamar's ball handling, how much do you think that is an advantage because other teams don't see it that often?
Well, I think it's an advantage, and he embraces that. He does a great job with it. We had last year, early in the season, we weren't as clean. I remember Detroit, we were up 28-0 going in to make it 35. We had an exchange issue. Haven't forgotten that one. Even at that moment. So you got to trust the guys, and Lamar's a big part of that. Our backs are a big part of that. Zay is a big part of that, little Zay, because he's a part of that. So those guys embracing ball security, and that's a big weapon. For us to be able to utilize, and Lamar embraces that.
The ability of your tight ends to block out on the perimeter, we saw a number of those kind of blocks in Dallas. How big a difference has that made for what you're able to call as a coordinator?
Well, it makes a huge difference. It shrinks the number of plays you have to call. The reality is space down here creates space at the line of scrimmage. All you have to do is look at the very first drive. The very first drive, Nelson Aguilar gets pressed, he runs the corner off 25 yards, he's off the screen. That's selfless, and that's a credit to him. You can only say it so much, but that shows it. And then we got on the perimeter, and Zay made a block, and then the touchdown was Mark and Zay. So all of that is a big part of it. Derek's run to start the second half, Nelson gets a block downfield, because you don't ever know. You don't want to waste opportunities to have to call more plays, right? It happened to them. Right? You never know. You never know. You might end up kicking a field goal, might get a turnover. So all of that plays into team football in terms of gaining the optimal amount of yards that they're willing to give you. And when you don't do that, you're not getting the optimal amount of yards that you're looking for. And again, that's a credit to those guys. And it made a huge difference. Not a big difference, a huge difference.
I think just one downfield completion for Lamar so far this season. Do you feel like defenses are defending you guys any differently because you haven't shown yet that big playability, or is it still the same kind of thing from week to week?
Well, I don't. Sometimes it's situationally, sometimes it's defense, sometimes it's we didn't complete it. All the above. Are we looking to throw the ball down the field like every team? Yes, of course so. But efficiency is big too. And again, the first two games we had 33 snaps of 2 minutes. You're not really going to be, that's not going to come up. Even though it did debate, we did have a play at Kansas City that way, but we're certainly looking to do that and push it down the field, and when the opportunity arises, we'll do that.
What have you seen out of the Buffalo front seven? Because it seems like they're a team that they play those two safeties back and kind of trust those guys up front.
They do a great job mixing up the front with it, and subtle little things that make it difficult. You think you're going to get, I don't want to say it, like a big run, and it just like a vacuum kind of sucks it in. Also, it's a 4-yard gain, it's a 5-yard gain. You thought, wow, they do a good job of triggering their nickel. They do a good job of triggering their safeties. They do a good job with their run fits. So it feels like, oh wow, Nelson, you look up, it's 2nd and 5, and it wasn't 2nd and 2. I think they do a great job playing off each other. They've been doing that ever since Coach has been there. I mean, I was in Cleveland in 2019, and they did that. We played them then. So they do a great job. They do a great job playing off each other. They play hard. They're hard to attack.
Oh, good. Cool. All right.
All right,
Thanks, Todd.
thank you.